putting together some videos which will allow us to focus on drawing faces and portraits. They're not how-to instructional videos, they're more ways to think about how you might create a project for your portfolio around portraiture, so that if you're working to build a portfolio and you're missing work on portraits, something that you want to think about from a sort of commercial perspective, then I've put together some information around how you can think about that and the way you might approach a self-initiated project. So that's up and running. And as part of the 2 months, the people in my community, the artists and illustrators, we come together and share what we're thinking for our own project, and work on our own projects together around the same theme. So with the portrait theme, I'm also starting to introduce these warm-ups, taking 20 minutes or half an hour to jump on and practice just quickly drawing some faces. So it's like a warm-up, loose drawing session that you can just slot into your day. If you're here as part of my paid community, you'll have the same references that I'm going to be working on right now as well. But I'll tell you what I'm going to be using. So I was gifted for Christmas, I was gifted this pen. It's a dip pen made from brass. It's Japanese. It's called the Kakimori dip pen. And it has these, it's a beautiful pen, but it has these little rivets along the side that you can see. And so the idea is that when you dip your nib into the ink, this well holds quite a lot of the ink. So I'm going to be really throwing myself out there and using this in the live drawing now, which is a little bit scary because it is messy. When I did my live drawing in the last session, I did use pencil, which doesn't have, it's not nearly as unpredictable, and I felt a lot more comfortable. Hello, Isian. Hi, Roxanne. Hi, Sarah. Yes, it's an amazing gift. Hi, Holly. So I've had a bit of practice with this since I got it at Christmas, which has been really good, and I'm completely in love with it. It does make a beautiful variety of lines. So if you just have a look at this sheet here, you can see that if you hold it flat to the sheet to the side, you get quite a broad line, and if you use it on its tip, you get quite a fine line. And what's really nice about the fact that it's a metal, a brass, is that if you tend to be somebody who works quite not very delicately, and you tend to put a bit of weight onto your pencil or your pen, it takes that quite well. If you've ever used a glass dip pen, which also gives you a really nice variety of line weight, you might notice that they tend to, after a while, they're quite vulnerable and they tend to chip. So I had a really beautiful glass pen that I used, and then I noticed after a while that it had chipped, and so it was kind of not possible to really fix that, which is a bit of a shame because I'm not very delicate with the weight that I apply. Hi, Carmen. So that's why I love this, because it can take a little bit of pressure without you worrying that it's going to get damaged, and you get that beautiful line weight, and once you dip it in, you can get quite a lot of ink flow, so you don't have to keep dipping too often. Oh, the one by Tom Studio, Holly. Yes, I've seen that advertised to me and I'm tempted by it. I'll have to see if I get lucky at Christmas next year. So I'll be using this. I've just had a birthday and I was gifted the beautiful pen rest for it as the accompaniment to this. I'm very lucky. And I will also let you know that I'm going to use one colour ink. And because I'm sure that you'll be interested in knowing which one it is, it's this one, which says Ajisai is the colour, and it's by Pilot. Iroshizuku, produced by Pilot. I think it's a pen ink. It's for nib pens and fountain pens. It's a really gorgeous, almost like ultramarine ink. So that's what I'll be using. So I'm going to do that awkward bit now where you flip the camera over. So let's see how that goes. Or lift it up, and I'll turn it over to the page. Let's just, okay, yep, and down. Okie dokie. You don't want to see the ceiling. Let's turn that over. Okay, so I'm set up. Let me just take this a bit higher. Thank you, Bianca, for the birthday wishes. Okay, I'm going to see if this works. So here we have our paper. Here I have my ink. I've got my beautiful nib pen here set up off to the side. And I'm going to see if I can pull up the Substack window on the screen so that I can also see if any comments come through now that I've got the camera overhead. Let me have a look if that works. Okay, so I'm going to begin. Let's see. I've got a couple of images up on the screen that I'm going to be drawing from. And I will, so, bit of a dip. It holds quite a lot of ink. Now I'm a bit scared. Let me put my test sheet up and you can get a sense of. Dip it a bit more. There's sort of a nice, how would I describe it? There is a bit of unpredictability, but there's also control. So it's, yeah, I'm really giving myself quite a task here, I have to say. All right, let's just do it. Let's just do it. Okay, I'm looking at my reference. Can you see my page? Yeah, I think you can see my page. So I've got a couple of images up. The first one is a black and white image of a really elegant looking woman who has been photographed. It's very vintage. I tend to find vintage image references really difficult to draw from because I feel like they can be quite low contrast. And it's really nice to have a lot of information when you've got high contrast images. So there may be, oh, see, that was quite inky, but that's all right. So I'm going to try and find that balance between capturing what I'm seeing, but also I don't want to worry too much about it being absolutely right. I guess what I'm hoping I'll manage to do is at least get things feeling as though they are believable, like the mouth proportion and the nose proportion are mostly, you know, where they should be, so that it makes sense as a portrait. Because what can often happen is, you know, you get the chin isn't quite right or something. And I decided to use individual sheets of paper this time because when you're working, I'm struggling to get that flow going. When you're working wet and you want to move quite quickly, it's nice to just put the sheet aside when you're done. So already it's a little bit annoying that I've managed to position this on the page like far too much to the side. It's not very centered. And I've made her a little, yeah, this is, so just going to give her a bit of shadow there. And I suppose the other thing I'm also noticing is that because I'm using this in a straight on the surface of the table, normally when I'm working in my sketchbook, you've kind of got a little bit of cushioning from the pages that are beneath the one that you're working on, right? So it tends to just feel a bit softer, but this feels like quite a rough surface. So I might just take the other ones that I've got and put that underneath. That might just feel a bit better. So quick one there. And then I've got the next reference I'm looking at is a guy who's looking down slightly, older gentleman. It's a really high contrast image that's black and white. And I think I'm going to try and do a better job of positioning on the page. One of the things that I always do is start with the eyes too high. So let me just try it so that I've got it. And he's looking a bit frowny. Let me see if I can do this in a way that is not too precious. Get a bit of these under eye wrinkles in. And let me see if I can at least just get these things in the right place. Okay. So when the angle of the head is down, again, it's easy for your brain to sort of misjudge where things need to go. So expect things to be very out of proportion. Because I'm also a bit nervous. Yeah, that nose is too big. That's all right. He's getting a bit older, so noses get bigger as you get older, right? So we've got that there. Am I close enough? Should I maybe go in a little closer? I don't know. Whenever I look back on this, it always feels like... we'll see. Okay, got that there. And then I tend to like going for like the top lip being a bit darker. I find that that does a good job. And then on the bottom of the lip gives you what you need to know about the side of the head. And oh, I do love this pen. I don't like to influence people to spend money on materials, but I don't think I'm ever going to regret this. And if you're tempted to get a glass dip pen, don't get this instead, because glass is likely to splinter, but this won't. It's just perfect. Okay, let me get this dude's beard in there a bit more. So the references that I've sent everyone have a varied mix of age and gender and style of photography. So some of them are really high contrast and some of them are less so. And I think that kind of is quite useful for trying to get a bit of range in. But again, like I've positioned this on the page in such a way that I'm not really gonna fit everything in, but that's all right. I think I'm getting the key parts in. But can you see how lovely it is with the marks you can get? It's just so nice. Yeah. Oh, it's so nice. I mean, the pen. Like, you know that feeling when you're using something and you just really enjoy the feeling of using it? Let me just hint at the way that his beard, maybe get some of those lines a bit further out. That helps to suggest the shape of his head. I think it's also really interesting when you're using different materials, how you surprise yourself, because I smudged a bit there, never mind. It's a warm-up. I tend not to be detail oriented when I'm working. I like to just be quite bold with my lines, but this tool does kind of invite you to be a bit more like, you can be quite loose like this, but I wouldn't normally bother with little dots on my drawings, but this pen makes me enjoy doing that sort of mark. So it's always really interesting when you sort of discover working with something and you enjoy the way that the line work is. Okay, get to rest that one there. So yeah, that's that one. Oh, he's got glasses on. Let me put the glasses in. I love drawing glasses on people. Let me just put those in. It would be a nice opportunity to use a different colour, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. He's got these really thin wire frames. I love drawing people with glasses. That really helps. Yeah, ink for drawing is it's just I don't know why it feels so nice, but I really enjoy it. Okay, so done the dude, I've done a woman. Let me see, what was my next reference? Okay, so now I've got a fairly young looking woman with bobbed hair. I feel a little bit warmer now. I'm gonna try and just relax into this a bit. So we've got her there, and then she's sort of looking this way. Okay, and I really like sort of drawing the nose from the eyebrow. That's also something that I quite like doing. Yeah, okay, so drawing the upper lip. This is quite a young woman. Always try and remember that the edge of the mouth tends to be in the middle of the eye, and I love putting in the lower lash like that. She doesn't appear to be wearing much eye makeup, but I'll just thicken the top line there. That's always quite nice. And then maybe a thinner bit down to the chin. She's got a nice big cheekbone, quite a round face. I've probably made her look a bit younger than she is. Yeah, aging a person correctly in a drawing isn't easy, right? So let me just bring her round. Am I worried about likeness? Well, because I'm not drawing people who are recognizable in the public eye, the freedom of that is you don't have to really worry about likeness. You can just enjoy capturing like the essence of what they're about. And now that I'm doing the hair, the nice thing about this pen is I can sort of scribble that in, which feels good. And of course, she's not going to fit on the page because I never managed that very well. But you can get a feeling of the shape that's coming out. Yeah, I like that. I like the way that that's feeling. You can see as well with this pen, when I lay it on the side, I can kind of get more ink out and give it that slightly colouring in feel, which I really like. And then a bit of a button. Yeah, I like how that feels. So there we have the second one. If you've just joined, this was the previous one, and my very first one, which was not very warmed up, is there. But this is fun. Okay. Now, the next image I have is of a gentleman who's a bit more accessorized up. So he's wearing a hat and sunglasses. And sometimes that's quite handy because when you've covered up as much of the head as you do when you have sunglasses and a hat on, it means you don't have to worry about the eyes. I'm going to try and do this a little bit more graphically because the glasses he's wearing are really graphic. They're really sort of perspex, strong, square. And the useful thing I find when you're drawing somebody that's wearing a lot of accessories is that it gives you a bit of a map of how to sort of travel around the face in terms of the relationships of, from the glasses, you can say, okay, the nose proportions relative to the glasses frame working, you can sort of map around the page a little bit easily. I find anyway, that's something I quite like about it. It's got nice, strong shapes. And then above the sunglasses, even though that they are quite square, you can sort of get a hint of the eyebrows coming through. I've probably again done the proportions a bit wrong, but it's an older gentleman and his facial hair is a little bit softer. So I can suggest that here. And then the lips. In this instance, how do I want to do it? Let me see. It can be a bit like that. I really hope that everyone can hear me and my reception is okay. We've had some internet issues lately, and I've got a panicked feeling that my screen has frozen, but hopefully it's all right. So he's also a greying gentleman, so the beard is actually quite white. So I can think about how... Thanks, Ocean. Appreciate that. Yeah, maybe I'll just sort of suggest really lightly the way that the hair is on his face. Like that. And then, again, I haven't positioned it very well. It's a bit too low. But I guess that's a nice thing about having it's a nice thing about having individual sheets of paper. Let's suggest the way the hat goes. So he's wearing a hat, which means I don't have to worry about the hair on his head because conveniently the hat's covering it. Let's get the glasses in. And then that tells me that the side of his face is there, leading down. And there's a strong silhouette of his ear. And the shirts, I don't know if you've noticed, but I always find when I'm drawing a shirt that they start way higher up than my brain expects them to be. So the collar on this one is quite high. I'll just make a suggestion of that. Now the way that his hat's working is up here. There's the rim. I'm just going to make a suggestion of this part where there's some stitching, but then it's quite a soft hat and it goes off the page. Yeah, that will do. Sometimes it's also quite nice. I'll just block with a brush around the edge because it just, when you've got a really nice strong shape, it's nice to be able to sort of highlight the head shape by blocking in a bit of the background. I like that. Quite a cool dude there. Quite a cool dude. All right, how are we doing for time? It's 20 past 1 where I am. I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do one more, so that will make it 5 images, and I was going to do 6, but because it's ink, I'm noticing that I'm maybe a little bit slower than I would be if I was just using pencil, because I'm being a bit more careful. But I'm going to do another one. Again, this is a male face, and I really like noticing, like the way that the eyebrow, hang on, let me get a bit lower here. The way that the eyebrows on quite a hooded eye can be quite close sometimes, to the actual eye. if that makes sense. Mira, I see your message. Yes, the references were to the paid subscribers because we're all working on the same projects together. We're working on the sorry, my brain and my mouth aren't connecting. We're working in the paid community on our project themes around portraits, and so as part of that, we're doing the warm-ups together. Okay, so the eyebrows are quite thick. And he's got some slightly heavier under eye. He looks a little bit like the expression on his face does look a little bit worried, but I think it's more just that he's squinting from the sun. So probably not that much of a, hopefully he's happy enough fella. All of the images that I'm referencing that I've sent around to my paid community are from Unsplash. So they're all stock imagery. And then I'm doing a really bad job of this lower part of his face here. Okay. So yeah, this one isn't quite working out how I want, but you know, I'm drawing life. It's all right. There's something quite nice about the character. Mira, yes, I'm glad you've got the same pen. I hope this gives you some inspiration for using it for portraits. I love drawing with this pen. So I'm going to just go, and I've probably got his hairline too tight now. And if my page was bigger, I'd want to make that mark at the top a lot more expressive. I'm actually making him look like some kind of cool rock star. It's not quite how he looks in the picture, but you know, it's all interpretive. And then let me see if I can just get him making sense. The ear comes down there, and then back of the neck. Okay. So there we have it. Quick warm-up session. We have young lady here, the gentleman you've just seen, dude with glasses looking down, and another dude. Let me see if I can just get these in. That's the warm-ups. I hope you've enjoyed seeing that. This one is a bit of a, yeah, wasn't the best. Oh, yeah, I know. It's just that middle of the day drawing is so good, right? Here we have it. Thank you for joining me on my warm-up session. I hope you've, yeah, thank you for coming. It's all very quick. I'm trying to aim for these to be fairly bite-sized so they don't go on too long, especially when it's just me. But I will be, yeah, sharing these later as well. And just a quick reminder, here's the beautiful pen. Da, 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 da. And the ink that I used, in case anybody's joined a bit late and didn't see it at the beginning, is this one here. So you can see it close up. It's by Pilot. It's a Japanese ink. It's a really lovely blue. I often just go to blue when I don't want to think about color too much. It's just a nice default. So thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you guys next time. How do I end this now? There we go.